The first one would be the students, those who wants to study in Spain. This would be a very clear way to come to Spain. The second one would be people who wants to retire or they just want to have a sabbatical year to enjoy the country without any need to work. This would be another way to come to Spain. The third one would be professionals, those who comes here because they have work opportunities, they find a job, so this would be another way. And the fourth one would be the startups, people who wants to develop a business in our country. So this would be the fourth generally ways to come to Spain if they don't have Spanish family members or they don't have EU citizens residing in the country.
Hello. Good afternoon. I hope everyone is having a wonderful week. Welcome to this special episode of How to Move to Spain. We're going to talk about visas and immigration with two experts all the way from Barcelona. Today, let's dive into the key immigration routes for non-EU citizens who dream of living in Spain. Whether you're a professional, an entrepreneur, a digital nomad, a student, or someone with family ties in the country, of course, in Spain. Our expert panel will break down the visa options and pathways to permanent residency or citizenship in Spain. We'll also cover essential tips on the application process, common pitfalls to avoid, and updates on recent policy changes. So if you have any questions, please write them down in the comments below. And yes, I know there are a lot of questions, a lot of doubts from people around the world, from our community members, and also fellow entrepreneurs and employees here in Spain, in the UK, in countries like the US, Canada, and the Philippines. So stay tuned. We have some useful tips and advice from two of our experts. So let's get started. We have, of course, one of our guests and panel speakers today is Cristian Balcells, Director and CEO of Balcells Group, a seasoned immigration lawyer. Cristian has dedicated his career to helping individuals and families navigate the legal process of relocating to Spain. Through his firm, he advises clients from around the world on resident permits, as well as on tax matters, property purchases, and business setup. Hello, Cristian. How are you? Good afternoon.
Well, thank you very much for being invited today to talk about immigration. It's one of my passions in life, so very happy to discuss with my colleague, with Darío, about all this and to be useful, which is most important.
Joining us on the panel is Darío Cerisole, founding partner and client acquisition director at Elai Legal in Barcelona, with over a decade of experience in international mobility and immigration law.
Thanks a lot, Carlo, for the introduction. A pleasure to be here today with Cristian too. It's a pleasure to be here and explain and try to give an overview and to provide clarity about the system. I will say that Spain is a very friendly country to migrate to, but it's very important to have a very clear strategy and a view of how to do things so we don't commit any mistakes. So everything we can provide for your public will be lovely, so we can have a clear picture of how things works.
Cristian, what are those available or the pathways available for non-EU citizens? Again, of course, we are talking about people or citizens outside the European Union who would like to move to Spain long term.
Yes, well, here there would be mainly four type of international people who wants to come to live to Spain. The first one would be the students, those who wants to study in Spain. This would be a very clear way to come to Spain. The second one would be people who wants to retire or they just want to have a sabbatical year to enjoy the country without any need to work. This would be another way to come to Spain. The third one would be professionals, those who comes here because they have work opportunities, they find a job, so this would be another way. And the fourth one would be the startups, people who wants to develop a business in our country. So this would be the fourth generally ways to come to Spain if they don't have Spanish family members or they don't have EU citizens residing in the country. Yeah, this would be in general the four ways I see.
That's right. Yeah. And that's when the questions start, right?
Yes,
The
absolutely.
questions begin.
How that
I'm-
works, right?
The objective, of course, of this video is to answer questions about those pathways that Christian mentioned. Now, what are the most accessible among these routes or pathways or popular immigration pathways or visas for Spain?
Of course, I will say for an ease of use, we have to differentiate of application we can process from Spain, because a lot of clients, maybe if they're US nationals or any other nationality that has access to enter the country as a tourist for 90 days, every 180, they could just enter Spain and apply from here. And from this perspective, I will say that the most popular are going to be digital nomads. We are receiving lots of applications from digital nomads as are setting now in Spain. Of course, there are also entrepreneurs that can apply from here. This one has to be taken into consideration because not everybody can get there, but there are other chances and opportunities. And of course, students of superior degrees that wants to start their career over here and wants to start studying here in the country can also apply from here from Spain. So they tend to be quite popular and useful. Then I will say, and following in on what Cristian mentioned before, every time we have a company in Spain or a subsidiary that wants to hire or transfer employees here, it's always a very good manner. For example, maybe there is a position, somebody is working in a company right now in the US, and there is an opening in a company, in the same company, but in a branch that is based in Madrid or in Barcelona. What they could do is ask for a transfer. So we have a specific permit for that, is intercompany transfer. And the person could be in a very successful and fast manner, get transferred into Spain and start residing here. Or get employed because they find a job opportunity, a vacancy that is considered qualified, and there are certain degrees of income that has to be proven. But if that qualifies, we have this high qualified professional permit. High skill visa is known as that also. That is a very fast track and successful way to receive residency here. I will say these ones are going to be maybe 60-70% of the applications. And then we have, of course, other special situations like relatives, like people who has Spanish ancestry that maybe can do something else, persons who maybe want to work as a self-employed person, non-lucrative, that are going to be applied from the consulate. We have many paths. I will say these are going to be the most popular, and also the ones that you can apply from Spain tends to have a more track and more interest than the other ones.
So there are different options, definitely. Not just the usual student, of course, student visa and work visa. These are popular, of course. And then you've mentioned also already non-lucrative. Christian, can you explain what is a non-lucrative visa? I'm sure a lot of people are not familiar with this. Compare it with the usual work visa or family visa. What are the requirements for this and the process for obtaining this kind of non-lucrative visa and residency permit?
The non-lucrative visa is a very popular one. It comes from the law of 2001. Now with the update on the law, there is some small changes, but basically it's for those who come to Spain to reside with no need to work. They need to prove this at the Spanish consulate, so the process starts at the consulate, where they need to provide evidences that they have enough savings to live in Spain without work. This based on the bank accounts, assets, regular incomes, credit cards, all these. They have to prove a certain amount depending on how many family members they want to come to Spain. And basically it's the idea that they come to Spain just to reside. Normally there is two profiles. There would be older people that they just come here to retire, and there would be middle-aged people that they have family and they want to enjoy a sabbatical year in the country, or 2 or 3, just to enjoy to learn the Spanish, to have the kids going to Spanish school, to have an experience. And basically this would be the non-lucrative visa. The first period, it would be for 1 year, and the renewals are for 2 years, and then 5. And this would be, in generally speaking, what the non-lucrative visa is about.
Darío, would like to add to that?
Yes, if I can say as a follow-up, yes, absolutely. In fact, and this is something, in the US, there are many different consulates. I think you have 8, if I'm not mistaken, right now. So each of them may have a small of a different criteria. But as a general rule, I will say that it's important that, and this is a common one that they ask in most consulates, if you are in working age, what they want to see is that basically you stop working. Because since this permit is going to be just a residency permit, at least for the initial year, you're not allowed to work from here. So if your income is going to be provided by your job or something like that, they want to see that that's not the case. Okay. Mm-hmm. So basically you either show, and this is going to be accepted by most consulates, that you have a passive source of income, or that you have the savings or the assets, as Cristian mentioned, in order to be able to suffice that criteria. Okay. Also very important, and following up on this idea of different consulates, some of them will ask you for different things. For example, we saw that some of them will require you to show a lease in Spain for a certain amount of time in order to show where you're going to be living. Others not. Others consulates, maybe they ask you to do a notarial declaration if you are in working age, asking you to say that you're not going to be working in Spain. Okay, so the basic idea, and this has to be taken into account in very detail, but is that each consulate has their own specific, I would say, criteria, even if the law is the same for everybody. And I will say that seeking advice or taking very good care of complying with the criteria of the specific consulate is going to be key in order to achieve this residency permit. Okay. Also, after the first, and this is, I think, is very important to acknowledge, is that after this initial 1 year of residency, you can not only renew, but you could modify that permit. So we have lots of clients that, for example, they start the journey here in Spain with this initial sabbatical, this initial year in Spain, but then afterwards, maybe they want to open a business. They start working as self-employed people in Spain, as 1099, or maybe they actually find a job position and they want to modify that permit and start working for a company in Spain. Okay, so all these are options that open after you have the non-lucrative residency, and can sometimes be considered like that as a sabbatical, or for other clients it can be considered a starting point to get introduced into Spain in an accessible manner, and then from there build businesses, build another routes, and end up doing other activities that require working, of course.
Can you give us an idea, like you mentioned, like savings? Is there a specific number there, like a minimum requirement?
It would be normally in gross, it would be 30,000 for the principal and 10,000 for each additional family member. For the initial permit, for the renewals, they have to double the amounts. And this would be in general how they have to prove. They have several ways to do it: savings, assets, investments, and even credit cards.
All right, so 30,000 usually for the principal, and then for the family members would be 10,000. You said, right? Each, exactly. Around that number for their savings account.